What is Christmas all about? Why do we celebrate Christmas? How do we not get caught up in all of the gifts and the money and the spending and the consumer lifestyle that's present throughout the entire Christmas season? On this episode of Good Sources, we talk about a book that introduces us the great dangers of being so consumed with things during the Christmas season. This is Good Sources, where we introduce you to sources for personal growth and use in discipleship as you grow as a disciple, becoming a discipler of others. As we near Christmas, one of my favorite things to do is to watch Christmas movies. It's just kind of what we do. Maybe you remember the days where ABC Family, which is now Freeform, would have the 25 days of Christmas, and there'd be all these different Christmas movies throughout. Maybe you have some classic Christmas movies that you'd like to watch, whether it's The Polar Express or Home Alone 1 and 2, or maybe a movie like Elf. We have our own movies throughout the Christmas season that my family, we just watch. We love watching these movies. They're somewhat nostalgic. And one of those movies for us is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And it's an adaptation of his book. And many people don't recognize that this was, in fact, a book written in the 19th century identifying some major issues within the Western world, in England in particular at that time. I think that what I want to do today in this episode is introduce you, if you haven't, to A Christmas Carol. There are several adaptations of this, and I actually don't typically do this. I prefer people to read books before they watch movies, but I think that if you've never watched the movie, you should find a version of the movie. I mean, there's a Mickey Mouse version of A Christmas Carol. There's an animated version with Jim Carrey in A Christmas Carol, but my personal favorite is it was a made-for-TV one with Patrick Stewart playing as Scrooge, and I think it's the one I recognize the most and the one I go back to the most. But I think you should find a way to consume this, whether it's an audiobook or the physical version of the book. The book is obviously going to have a little bit more depth to it. The movies can't get into everything, but the main ideas remain the same in these books as they do in the movie. And so I think that you should, this Christmas season, find a version of A Christmas Carol and you should watch it, because I think it's really helpful for us as we think about participating in the holidays as Christians, navigating this time where we're really supposed to be celebrating Christ and his first coming. And so just kind of a little bit of a background, Dickens was an author at this time in the 19th century. A Christmas Carol comes out in 1843. And he wrote this book in the midst of he'd had kind of fallen out of good graces. He wanted to get back into the public eye. And so there is some of that aspect of this book when it was written. But really, he's writing this book as almost a critique of the English culture at the time, where the poor were being exploited more and more, and work conditions were getting harsher and harsher for the working man. And that's significant, because this book is a call in many ways for social reform, to rethink how we structure ourselves in society, how we view one another as humans. And he's pulling on a lot of Christian themes there, right? Of thinking about, we need to recognize that the poor is made in the image of God just as much as the wealthy is. And we want to be a people who acknowledge that, who recognize that. As Christians, we should read this book or watch this movie and see that he's identifying something within us as humans that makes us special, and that all human life is valued. It's more valuable than money. It's more valuable than fame. It's more valuable than any good you could have, but that human beings are of great value. He loved Christmas. Dickens loved Christmas, which is part of the reason he wrote this book, and that's significant. And he loved Christmas because of the Christian themes of it. And it's obvious that he was influenced by his Christian tradition in the 19th century England when he wrote this book. Now, the purpose of the Christmas story, of A Christmas Carol, is to show Scrooge, a wealthy businessman who loves money, who hates family, and really hates humans as a whole. He doesn't want to participate participate in the well-being of others. It's all about him. He's incredibly greedy. And in this story, he's visited by three ghosts: the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas future. And all three ghosts are exposing him to the reality that if money is everything, if things are everything, then ultimately what you will end up with is absolutely nothing. Each emphasize that the most important thing in life can't be things, because if it is things, we will be left without any hope, without any peace, and at the end of the day, just wanting more things. Eventually, at the end of the story, spoiler alert, you had almost 200 years to watch this or read this, so spoiler alert. At the end of the movie, at the end of the book, Scrooge gets transformed. He has this come to fruition moment where he says, I don't want to live for things. I'm going to live and give my money away. I'm going to take care of those around me. And the story becomes one of redemption and shows how kindness goes a long way. It's important for us to understand that Dickens is telling just a part of the Christmas story. That Christmas is not about gifts or about money or about getting things, but ultimately it's about relationships and how a relationship can bring true joy. Now, Dickens doesn't get fully into the Christian themes of Christmas, with the coming of Christ being the core value of Christmas. His focus is on the gathering of friends and family and how we should take care of one another, and that's significant. We should acknowledge it's a good part of Christmas. We do that, and we want to participate in that. But he neglects that the true relationship that one should seek to have during the Christmas season is a relationship with Christ, to know him as Lord and as Savior. And that through a relationship with him, we get a community that is our family, that we become redeemed, that we go from seeing that money has, yes, some value in the sense of it is a means to an end, but it is not the end in of itself. And that only comes when we have a right understanding of who Christ is and his coming during Christmas, the first Christmas. Dickens misses some of that, but ultimately I think that he still does a good job of identifying that Christmas is about more than just getting things. And I think that would be my hope, that as you maybe watch this movie or read this book during the Christmas season, is that you would be exposed to the deeper reality that this isn't just a time to celebrate getting gifts. It's not just a time of getting around and having a Christmas ham. It's not a time of good food. It's not even a time necessarily of just being around friends and family. But ultimately, this is a time where we celebrate the coming of Christ, who has come, who has died, who's raised from the grave, who's ascended, and who will come again. That is why A Christmas Carol is a good source that you should get, because it exposes us to the deeper realities that Christmas is about more than what you will get this year under the Christmas tree, but it's about him who has come and who died on a tree. For more resources, visit emmettministries.org, and make sure you follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and subscribe on YouTube for more weekly content from Emmett Ministries.